There were a lot of material tests to figure out like what kind of polysheeting, what kind of vinyl to work with. We used a bunch of different kinds of tarping material. So I think this was another iteration of just trying to create the form and like imagining what those layered paintings would look like inside. Sleeve is a 3-part iterative work, and I would call it also an accumulative work. And I was thinking about the proposition for this billboard as a kind of long gesture, one long gesture over 3 parts. I've often thought of my paintings not necessarily as endpoints, but also as kind of intervals, not necessarily like arriving at a final image. The physicality or the materiality of it is vinyl backing with a different kind of sheeting on top, and then inside are layered paintings that are on silk. The way that the process often works is that I'm looking at these archival images, and then they get translated into these architectural spaces that are both referential but also memory. Sometimes actually a lot of my color palette also comes from these photographs. I'd say my practice moves between 3 different kind of areas. The first is autobiographical narratives of migration as related to the Filipino diaspora. I would say the materiality of painting and an interest in soft architecture as a kind of terminology. My family's from the Philippines, but I was actually born in Saudi Arabia, and then we moved to Canada when I was young, and that's kind of an integral part of the work. And I work predominantly in painting, but it often also comes out in site-specific installations. The architectural spaces in my paintings and my practice, they're all referencing different homes that my family's lived in, so there is like a familial architecture. My dad documented everything. When I'm looking at these photographs too, I think there's a lot of questions that come up. A lot of it feels like putting myself in like my parents' positions, which is also kind of interesting to me too. What I always find most interesting about this one is that, the relationship of the fabrics, this kind of resourcefulness with using the curtain and the tablecloth is cut from the same cloth. I think most of the paintings in the sleeve billboard are also referencing domestic linens, and there are some architectural paintings in there as well. But yeah, lots of things in sleeves. When I started thinking about the form of the billboard, I think I was looking towards these kinds of containers or forms that were also protecting the things that I was referencing in the work. Like sleeves being able to protect remnants of familial archives or histories. The same plastic that was on that billboard is the same plastic I wrap my paintings in when I ship work, when I send work, when I receive work. And so this material was also familiar to me. You can carry this down. Today, we're going to be installing the 3rd iteration of Sleeve, which is titled As That Surface Fluctuates. And that title is a reference to a Lisa Robertson essay on the history of scaffolding. And so the billboard, each iteration has had an addition of 3 paintings. So I think in the first iteration, it was 3 paintings with a poly sheeting covering, and then the second iteration was 6 paintings, and in this last one, there are 9 paintings in total. And the sheeting has also changed. The most recent one, this 3rd iteration is going to be this kind of mesh, like a material similar to that kind of scaffold meshing. Receiving the invitation to do this billboard was super interesting in a way that my studio is a couple businesses east and my house is just a couple houses south. And so the billboard was sandwiched between these 2 locations that I move between very frequently. And it's an unusual relationship to art that I've had. I'm more familiar with the idea of, you make something and then you drop it off and it kind of lives in a static moment at the exhibition or in the gallery. And I don't have to necessarily engage with it all the time. Where here, I became both the maker of the work, but also kind of like an observer. Like I just became a part of the landscape. It was no longer like about my work, but it was also just watching this thing like change over time, and also watching people watch it, and also watching people maybe not engage with it. Like there was so much I was privy to. And so every day I kind of see who's there, and becoming just an observer along with everyone else in the community was such a treat.